sports enthusiasts. You've just stepped into the ultimate podcast for all things in youth sports. After the Game is where we break down the game within the game, from coaching strategies to the role of parents and the secrets behind running a top-tier program. Expect insightful conversations, expert tips, and a whole lot of sports banter. Whether you're a coach, a parent, or a player chasing dreams, this is your go-to spot. So fasten your seatbelts. Here are your hosts, Ryan and Chad. Let's dive into the action.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to After the Game. Our special guest tonight is Martin Binning, a seasoned coach with over a decade of experience leading youth basketball tournaments across the Midwest in the AAU circuit while selling insurance for a family business. But Martin's journey took a profound turn when he experienced an epiphany that led him to embrace his faith and embark on a new path in Las Vegas, of all places. With unwavering dedication, Martin transitioned into the role of a lifestyle and fitness coach, driven by his newfound sense of purpose and commitment to clean, faith-based living. As he builds his personal brand, Martin continues to inspire others with his transformative journey and steadfast devotion to helping others achieve wellness goals. Martin, how are you this evening?
Doing really good. Thanks, Chad. Thanks, Ryan, for having me on and having this opportunity for me to talk about my faith, my transformation, and my coaching experience. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. I would say the first thing I'm curious to know, and I think a lot of other people would be interested, is of all the places you go to Vegas, Sin City.
Jesus said, "Go where the sinners are." But Vegas wasn't the first spot on the map. I had left Wisconsin and went to Florida, and I was born in Tampa, but it just didn't quite stick going back to Florida, and I wanted to up the ante. I'd never been out west, never been to Vegas, so I decided to get in the car, me and my little dog, and I just fell in love with the mountains. When I had started my personal transformation back in Wisconsin, I had fallen in love with hiking during COVID. A lot was shut down, but maybe you remember the state parks, anybody could go, even without a pass. I remember hearing that, and I was bored of the TV and had started on this fitness journey, and me and my dog just started hitting up all types of different state parks. So one of my favorites was Rochia Cree State Park in Wisconsin, out toward the western part of the state. Beautiful, beautiful state park. If anybody has not been there, you definitely should add it to your list. I do.
I'm a big fan of hiking myself. I actually have a really cool book that says top 50 places to go hiking before you die. I would recommend it. I would definitely recommend it. So let's get to the nitty gritty of it. Before we go into Vegas, your journey really starts as a basketball coach. But how did you get involved in that? And it wasn't a school that you were doing that. So tell us about that. How did that begin?
So after my father had passed, I was in my young 20s, and I was a little bit at a crossroads. It was a pretty big loss for me. And when I was really young, my family was involved in volunteering. So there's an opportunity for me to get back into volunteering. So I got involved with a program called Big Brothers, Big Sisters, where I got matched with a little. That program I was specifically involved in was in Dane County, which is the Madison area, Madison, Wanakee, Sun Prairie. But they have Big Brothers, Big Sisters all over Wisconsin and all over the United States of America. But I got matched with a young man who at the time was 5 years old. So I was in my young 20s. And there was a moment there where I was like, holy smokes, I bit off more than I can chew, right? I'm this young man going through my own issues. And now I've got this little kid staring me in the face going, what the heck are we going to do? And you can only play so many games so much and take him to this museum, take him to this library. And together we fell in love with basketball. So I had signed him up through the YMCA, and he started playing with these other coaches. And then that section was over, and the kids were going to go play soccer. And soccer just wasn't for me and him. And I was like, come on, guys, let's keep this basketball thing going to these dads and these coaches. And they're like, nah, we're good for now. Like, why don't you do it? And I was like, well, I guess I can, but it just wasn't something I had thought about at the time. But the power of YouTube, you can teach yourself anything. So I knew how much it kept Keyshawn, was his name, busy. And I had fallen in love with the sport a little bit, just watching him play and seeing how positive it was for him having this after-school activity. I didn't really want to see it just disappear on him and have to find something else to restart. Sometimes it's so hard to get something started. So I said, okay, well, I'm going to figure out this basketball thing and just Google and YouTube drills. And we were able to get a few kids that were on that team and then added some of his friends. And just organically, it kind of grew. And we had a real solid basketball team. So from age about 6 into the high school years, we coached essentially the same group. Guys would come and go here or there, but we had a pretty strong core of kids that we coached that whole entire time. So that was essentially then how I got involved with coaching.
I would imagine that is where you fostered your love of mentorship. I mean, there had to have been some sort of profound impact to be this male figure, this role model for these kids that obviously, from what I would surmise, were probably maybe less fortunate, and they
Certainly.
didn't.
The group that I had, it was a group of boys. Most didn't. Most of them had absentee fathers.
Okay.
I also had worked in the Sun Prairie School District, working with kids with emotional behavior disorders. So it was during this time in my life, I was working at a school district, volunteering, coaching basketball. I'd worked with the YMCA with before and after school programs. And again, volunteerism just throughout my life had been important. So it just sort of came naturally to me. But then, I mean, coaching is addicting, but then teaching people just little concepts and watching them, when they learn it and seeing them execute it and how excited their faces are. I mean, that's the reward, I think, for any of us when we teach, when you see, when you get through that hurdle. Like there would be nights you go in with a drill and you'd be like, my goodness, I don't know if they're ever going to get it. And then you come back to the next practice and they're just running it just like that. The jump from pushing through this really complex drill, and I go, why the heck did I pick this? This is above their head, to that next practice is this beautiful mystery. I don't understand it, where it can literally go from total chaos to like they're running it and I barely had to say anything sometimes. I was like, wow.
Martin, you actually touched on something really important, especially in this day and age. Having a positive role model, a male figure in a young man's life is important to their growth, to their personal growth and their journey from boyhood to manhood. They need that. And it reminds me, it makes me think so much of when I would be a kid fishing with my dad. And if I wasn't doing it right now, I'd get frustrated. And my dad, let me show you, and he would go through the motions with me, teach me how to do it. And then I would do it. And I'd be like, Dad, did you see that? I did that. I did that, and those are those moments that you cherish and you really appreciate. And it has such a big impact. And the child, they don't realize how big of an impact it has on you. It has a bigger impact on you than it does them, but it also has a huge impact on them without them even realizing it.
100% agree with you. And I think the whole journey was beautiful because, I had lost my father, who was a very good man and a very good father to me. So it was like this sort of just really beautiful organic thing that happened where I got to be a father figure for this group of boys who didn't have it, while like mourning, the loss of my father. We both kind of shared in this beautiful connection. So it ended up not just being about Keyshawn, it was this whole group of boys. And, through my business with teaching Medicare, I sold Medicare supplements in the state of Wisconsin for over 10 years. So you're kind of noticing a theme of teaching with me, right? With Medicare, the why, the school district, coaching. It's definitely a passion for me. So doing it with basketball, I've always loved sports, but definitely sharing it, and, again, losing my father and then still being able to be a good mentor for these boys. It was just overall a really beautiful experience. Okay. Now, for me now, Ryan, I remember specifically when I was coaching that group, I said, I'm with these guys from age 6 to 16, and that's cool. But I always knew that from like age 18 to 25, this group would like really need me. So that's kind of where I'm at now. If people follow me on social media at all or see some of my photos, I've lost just about 100 pounds. So through coaching and selling insurance, I had kind of, neglected myself at times for various reasons. And as they began to graduate high school, they didn't need me as much initially with the basketball, right? COVID happens. It was an opportunity for me to really blow the whistle on myself and say, all right, all this coaching you've done, all this teaching that you've done, why don't you put some of that energy back into yourself, which is really going to help me. But also, again, I got to be a role model for this group as they're 18, moving forward to age 25. I feel like the obvious age to mentor young men is middle school, high school, right? But I feel like when you turn 18, Ryan, are you really a man? When you're 20, are you really a man? Like, think back to yourself. Like, society might say, okay, you got to pay some bills now. You got to get a job and you can get a place. But holy smokes, fast forward for me, I'm 35. So I look back, 18 to 25 was a tough time for me. And a lot of that has to do with our prefrontal cortex. It's like there's so much medical information on this, right, that it doesn't finish developing till age 25. Well, what is, we just say that word. What is that word? What does it mean? The prefrontal cortex is all about evaluating decision-making pros and cons. It's about remembering negative consequences from past decision-making to influence us to make better decisions moving forward. So when you look at society in age 18 to 25, you get these guys graduate high school, you throw them out into the world, and their brain hasn't even developed fully to make proper decisions. I just think it's something that we need to shed more light on and continue to understand and talk about. Because in a lot of ways, I mean, I'll say it for myself, I was still a boy a lot of times up until age 25,
You're absolutely right on that. Maturity doesn't really start for men until we don't really fully mature until more like 28, 29.
Right?
later half. Like women mature much faster though. On that when you think
Absolutely.
of the maturity level, the frontal cortex, like you mentioned, that matures a little faster for women than it does for men.
For sure.
Unfortunate for us, very fortunate for them.
But
so
again, with the group that I had worked with,
yeah,
you're taking a group that struggles more in school, is lacking male role models. They're growing up in a lower socioeconomic status, and then you throw them out into society, and we wonder then at some of the issues that we're seeing in America, right? So I just think it's a topic that we need to keep revisiting within our communities, the power of male role models that are me and you in our 30s, if we can. Like me, I'm single, I don't have kids. So I understand if I had 5 kids, it might be harder for me to do that. But I think there's a role in our communities to really help young men, teen years, and even into these young 20s, because there are some decisions that are happening for them that really negatively affect their lives and our communities.
I'd say you have a really good pulse on what are some of the underlying issues in today's society. I've been keeping my ear to the ground, and I can tell you that there's certainly some correlation to what you're saying and the spike in, not to get too political, we try not to go too political.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is necessarily considered a political topic, but it's certainly a main topic of concern for most Americans today is the spike in crime and in young adolescent youth, primarily males, so I think there is something to be said about what you're saying there, and that might be one of the fast remedies to that situation to help turn the ship around, if you will. But I want to understand more than, so
Sure.
you 10 plus years, that's what, so is it the compassion and that love for the mentorship that was, coming, that overtook you, that kept you in for so long?
So what was my experience is sort of unique. Some coaches are constantly coaching different groups, maybe through an organization. Mine was similar to maybe like a father coaching his son through, because I was with Keyshawn from age 6 into high school, 16, 17 years old. So I was with the same group. I didn't stay with, just coaching 5-year-olds, just coaching 6-year-olds, just coaching 7-year-olds. I went up every year and aged with that same group, which I think was kind of a unique experience for me. So I didn't then bounce back down and coach 2nd grade and 3rd grade and move around. I moved with this one group that whole entire time. After they graduated, I did end up coaching a couple more groups. One group, including Orlando Tucker, who played for University of Wisconsin. I coached his son for a season. But I found that, and those teams were successful, and those kids were amazing. I found that same fire and passion wasn't quite there. The connection that I had with Keyshawn was really special. I mean, he had stayed with me a lot. I was helping with homework. I was teaching these kids chess. It was just a little bit different level of journey. So it was hard to recreate that same passion that I had with that first group.
And the mothers of these sons,
A lot of great moms. They were involved. They were super supportive of me. Naturally, that youth sports, man, is really competitive, and it's just not all like fluffy. Maybe you got to understand, we were playing the highest level tournaments, going to Milwaukee, going to Chicago, going to Minnesota, going to Iowa. That AAU at the highest level is very competitive, very aggressive. Don't want to get into, again, political stuff, but being white, my assistant coach, white, and then literally 10 black players, there's a lot of different perspectives on what's going on there. I did fund a fair amount of the team. We never took money from any shoe company, Adidas, Nike, Reebok. We had offers. I never put my company bidding insurance on any of the jerseys. That was important. I wanted to have a separation there. I was truly just passionate about volunteering. When I started with Keyshawn, I didn't even know I was going to get into basketball. Remember, we just kind of naturally went in through the Y, and then he was going to be left without coaches once again. So I felt like I had to step up, and then it just turned into this thing. And I mean, he could have been an average player. He didn't have to be, and all these other kids ended up being really, really talented. And their careers through high school have been up and down and whatever. But we were a really good team. If you've heard, NY2LA is a very competitive tournament in the Midwest. The Nike Phenoms program director, Jalen Johnson, played with them. That's through that whole organization. We played in that 2 different seasons. We went to the Elite Eight and then the Final Four. That's a tournament with as many as 60 teams in it, top teams, Chicago, Milwaukee, Ohio, Iowa. And we were just strolling in, a group of kids from Madison with no sponsorship, just our regular old jerseys and shoes, making it to the Final Four. It's one of the biggest tournaments in the Midwest. So we were proud of that. We were excited about that. A lot of sports psychology went into that. Before we got on, off camera, we talked about this. UConn, Dan Hurley and them just won men's basketball. A lot of my drills came from his father, who's from Bob Hurley out in New Jersey. So we put a lot of emphasis on camaraderie, team connection, eye contact. If I sent you into a game, you had to give the guy a high five coming out. Guys coming out, you had to stand up, give high fives. That was super important. Positive feedback and talk. We'd have discussions at practices. We were all about coming together as a team, and that was super important for us going into these environments then where we had no business being there, in theory, you know.
I want to touch on something there that you mentioned.
Sure.
The essentially the etiquette, the mannerisms that you wanted them to display. That's actually very familiar to me in terms of coming from the Marine Corps.
Sure.
There's customs and courtesies, these things that you do, even when you may not want to do them, but you do them because it's a show of respect. It's a show of discipline. You know, that's being a man. It's stand up straight with your shoulders back rather
100%.
than, you know what I mean? And that, I believe that's the saying. I think I got that right.
When you're down 12 points in basketball, you're in a position. Either you're going to go down and be down by 20, 30. Now the game might be over, or you're going to claw back into that. And that comes down to self-belief and believing in each other. If you have doubts on that court and doubts in yourself, you're going to be down by 30 really quick. Confidence is a prerequisite to success. You have to be confident. You have to believe in yourself, even when it's difficult. And there are difficult times, especially in sports and athletics, where you're not sure if you believe in yourself, right? You're not sure if you believe in your teammates, but you try to create this culture of winning. You create this culture of positivity, and that's how you overcome those barriers and create a culture of winning. So super important, positivity and being confident.
That's very sound advice from Martin Binning. Is that where winning with Binning comes from?
It's just a fun play on words, but I did use it in my commercials for the Medicare supplement business. But I have used it with the guys. They laugh. They would see me on TV and always joke about it. But we certainly did win a lot. We won over 50 championships. That was kind of fun. Yeah, it's a fun journey.
So over 50. That's impressive.
Yeah.
That's very impressive. But you also mentioned that you were, was it insurance or medical products that you were selling for your family business?
Medicare supplements to supplement the program Medicare.
Understood.
Yep.
Now you were doing that all the while you were coaching.
Correct. And so that's I was self-employed through my own business, and that is ultimately I think what allowed me to go so far into this basketball world, because coaching, as any coach knows, if you're going to coach and be successful at any level, it's going to require a lot of time.
That's very true. That's so true.
Now, I lived with my assistant coach, Sean. I want to give him a ton of love and a big shout out. We would film our practices. we would give practice grades. We'd come back and give guys grades. I don't know how many youth programs are doing that, but we took it very seriously. We would film our practices and give youth basketball players grades on their practice performance. Absolutely.
There's another thing that's interesting about that. So all the while that you're, just to unpack it and really look at this in a holistic way, you're being a coach, you're being a role model.
Mhm.
There's a love for the sport, a love for the game that all of you share together.
Yep.
All the while you're self-employed, you're demonstrating that, hey, I have gainful employment. Here's how I do it. It takes a lot to be self-employed is actually
Sure.
a lot more daunting than punching a clock for somebody else. So that requires a lot more discipline and a lot of
look. I've done a lot of talk. I've talked a lot about the winning, but as a coach, you're teaching so many more aspects of life, right? The winning was a byproduct of a lot of little things that came together. But what are the parallels between being a good friend, a good coworker, about being confident, about taking risks, parallels from youth sports that translate right into the real world, especially with a group of men that lack maybe that positive influence to teach some of that stuff, showing up to practice on time, when you're there, being present, right? No phones, being a good teammate, picking your teammates up on the ground. We broke it down into, I trained a lot of these kids then in gyms outside of the basketball court. So me, when I was younger, I had uncles and some older brothers that helped instill, probably at age 5, push-ups and sit-ups and pull-ups. That was super important to me with the group that I coached, that it wasn't just all basketball. It was also an emphasis on physical fitness. A big thing too, and I got called crazy before for this, my guys weren't allowed to eat candy or drink Gatorade or have any type of sugary treats during any of the tournaments. And that was pretty unheard of for youth basketball teams. But I'll tell you, when we the first season we didn't win anything. The second season we took second place at everything. And I said, okay, this third season we're going to win everything. And I said we had to analyze this little thing down to every detail that we could. And nutrition was such a big one. Now today I'm super passionate about nutrition. I want to talk about that now. But even back with these kids, youth athletes, I think we forget how important nutrition is. And we'd watch these teams just drinking Mountain Dew and Gatorade and eating candy. It took me, I had to, when I instilled that new, we called it a standard. I didn't like to say the word rule. And I got that from Coach K. It was just a team standard. I didn't say team rule, team standard. There were guys that were looking at me like, this guy's crazy. I want my Snickers or I want my Skittles, whatever it is, right? And I had to bench a guy that we caught eating Skittles at halftime before a championship game. And that was tough. But I'll tell you, we benched him, and not one of those kids ever broke that standard for the rest of the whole time that we coached them. It got to the point, Ryan, think about this. We're a group of 7th, 8th grade boys sitting at a lunch table before we go into a championship. And the guys go, coach. And I go, yeah. And they go, look it, that's the team we're about to play. And I go, yeah. They go, they're drinking Mountain Dew. And all my guys laugh and go, they got no chance versus us. We're all drinking water. I mean, that just took that confidence to another level. They've already won the game now. We would blow these teams out by 20, 30, 40 points. That's a confidence inside. I think there's a physical aspect, but it became so much more mental. When they would see these kids, they said, you're eating Skittles, you ain't beating me. Now,
I really agree with that. You had that, they had that mental, they won in their heads. They already beat the other team before they got on the court.
So powerful, isn't it? Well, in sports and performance, visualization is so important, even in sales, right? Like you have to visualize winning and executing, and that's so important to manifest. Visualization, I believe in all of that, in the weight room, in sports, in life. We have to put ourselves there. We have to validate the reasons why we're doing it and then go out there and execute. And it's amazing how powerful that mental aspect is.
I'm glad you said that. That's a great segue here. So is that where was that the catalyst then for your innate desire for fitness? I mean, obviously you had, like you mentioned, you put on weight and such, but you had in your head, you were still thinking about fitness. That was something that you had a passion for, but you weren't able to work on yourself just yet. You didn't have the epiphany, if you will.
I don't want to make excuses or be like, yeah, I was working too much, I was coaching too much. I think that's unacceptable. I don't want to make an excuse. I could have done
That's fair.
But I did get to a point, right? COVID, I was mostly done coaching. Insurance, in-person sales had slowed. I was at home staring at myself in the mirror and was like, holy smokes, I want to do something about this. My belly's out to here. And yeah, there was an aspect of disappointment that a lot of the principles that I was coaching these young men on, that I was preaching about, I had let myself neglect. And I had to face myself and decide, okay, here you are, 287 pounds. You're going to go, one of two ways. Either going to go over the threshold of 300, and that's going to be a really tough mountain to climb, or you're going to kick yourself in the butt and figure this thing out and live by a lot of the principles that you taught these kids, that you preached, that you remember for when you were a wrestler. So I took that opportunity during COVID. For a lot of people, COVID was a horrible time. For me, it was one of the best times in a way. It was like everything slowed down and you had this opportunity to decide, okay, what am I going to do next? Who do I want to be? And I'm thankful I got that opportunity. And so I took a lot of the energy that I used when I taught Medicare, when I worked in the school district, when I coached these boys, and just applied those principles to myself.
How would I want to say this is you took a moment to really do a deep dive into yourself during COVID. And I think there was a lot of people that actually did that. And that's where, I don't know, I believe that's where that newer term, self-care, just really started populating all over the place. And everyone's just like self-care. And that's when we really started to consider our physical health, our mental health, so much more. And that's interesting that you bring that up, because it was almost like a revolution of that in just the last 4 years. So let's talk more about that. At what point did you realize that?
So a big thing.
While you were in Florida, or
I had a history of weightlifting and working out. I was in Wisconsin is when COVID happened. I was born in Florida, but my family, we moved back to Wisconsin. I was 8 years old. Then when I left Wisconsin, I was only in Florida a brief time period. But in Wisconsin is when I dropped most of my weight. And so I really just dedicated to walking. At first, I was going to clear 8,000 steps a day. Then it was clear 10,000 steps a day, 12,000, 15,000. So I slowly increased that amount of walking. Walking really is like one of the most human things that we can do. A lot of people get so afraid of the word cardio, and in theory, walking is cardio, but it's not like you're running on a treadmill for 10 hours. It doesn't have to be this crazy thing. It was like, I'm going to go check out some of these there's 75 beautiful state parks in the state of Wisconsin, and I'm going to just go to one after another and make that my workout. So workout, a lot of people's brains, I think it can just picture right in a gym and you're at some dumbbells, or right on a treadmill and you're, putting up the incline. Like a workout just means you're moving, you're burning calories, you're getting outside. So a workout really can be such a wide variety of things. For me, I fell in love, like I had mentioned a little bit earlier, with the state parks in Wisconsin. And I just kept that going. And of course, I was also in the gym at times, but not every single day. So I fell in love with being outside. And a lot of times, Ryan, I would walk from my house to the gym. So I'd get my walking in there, I'd get a little weight lift in, then I'd walk back home. So walking, for anybody who's looking to restart a journey, don't overthink it. Walk a lap around the block. Walk to a park. Walk your dog. Just try to increase those steps. I'm on an iPhone right now talking to you. I just check it every so often. I see where I'm at. You're at 500 steps. All right, you better get your butt outside, move around. I try to clear for sure 10,000 a day, but there's some days I'm clearing 20 or more. It just sort of depends on the day and what's going on. But I'm always clearing 10,000 steps a day. That's a good number, especially if you're having good nutrition. One thing I want to say quick, Ryan, with nutrition, gaining weight, a big thing I think a lot of people overlook is oil. So I cut out all oil, even olive oil. I'm not saying olive oil is bad, but I just looked for an opportunity to cut back on calories. If you're not measuring exactly a teaspoon or tablespoon of oil and you're just dumping it in, I think people really don't realize how many calories they're adding. Now, if you just look at one day and you do the oil, you might say, okay, I went over 200 calories. but I started to look at my nutrition at 7 days. So if you go over every day 200 calories of olive oil.
Nope.
Thousands of extra calories for a week. That's a whole extra day of eating just in what you thought was a tiny bit of oil. So it's amazing how one little subtlety like that can really can totally change your nutrition and fitness.
So that's where the two meld together, and you decided from. I'm trying to get the timeline right. So, at what point was it that you were in Florida and realized I'm getting out of here? I'm heading to.
Sure.
I'm just gonna get in the car and go.
I had a buddy in Florida. Since I was born in Tampa, I always knew I wanted to go somewhere warm and get more sun. Can you tell I'm outside a lot? So I wanted to go back to the state that I was born in. So I went to Orlando. I stayed with a buddy and his girlfriend for a while. I just had trouble getting a place, had trouble getting a job. It wasn't totally clicking. I had never been out west, and I thought it would be exciting to drive out and just see what I saw. So I went on a little road trip through Texas and then made it into Vegas. And I kid you not, when I came into the city, Sin City, the mountains here are absolutely gorgeous. And decided, you know what, I'm going to get a place and just see what happens. The next day, I have a place. The next day, I have a job. It was just like weird that I went to Florida and like everything felt so difficult at times. And then I just randomly roll into town out here on a little trip. And then like, boom, I got a place. Boom, I got a job. And I was like, all right, I'll stay for a year and see what happens.
So would you agree that there was some sort of divine intervention happening there?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
So let's dive into that a little bit there.
Okay.
So you are a born-again Christian, and of all the places, you're in Vegas, as we mentioned multiple times. You're in Sin City.
Yes,
of
sir.
all the places, you choose Sin City. Why?
Well, it's warm. There's a ton of sunshine. There's actually this whole big counterculture of fitness here. I don't think a lot of people know that, but like take Mr. Olympia, Jay Cutler, take David Goggins, like, you know, some of these big names that are here. Look at the sports teams that are all coming here, right? The NBA tournament's here. The Raiders are here. The A's are coming here. So there's the gyms. I mean, I have a membership. I go to like 27 different gyms in this city. So there's just a ton of fitness, nutrition, athletics here in Vegas. The world's best climber, Alex Hanold, if you know that name. He climbed Yosemite, El Capitan, right? That guy lives right here in Vegas. He says this is his favorite place to climb. It's why he came here, him, his wife, and 2 kids, because some of the climbing and the hiking is just, it's the best in the world.
That's Free Solo, right? That documentary?
Free Solo,
I have
Alex
watched
Hanold.
it. Fascinating.
I can't watch that and not sweat my palms. Like I don't know how that guy does that, but and that's not for me. I like my feet on the ground a little bit more.
I watched that and I'm like, where I need a rope. I need many ropes. Give me lots of them.
But I mean, what an incredible Ryan, did you like that movie?
I did. I found it very motivating. It's inspirational. You know, I think that's it sends a very positive message to people that you can do something even when you can find the ability to master something, to challenge yourself, to complete something that you didn't think you could prior to that. You know, it was just a dream. That dream became a reality. And I think that's actually easily transferable to a lot of other things. You know, take what I'm doing, for instance, what Chad and I are doing. We're building a company. You know, we built a company and it used to not exist. Now it exists. You know, it used to be a concept, a dream. Now it's becoming a reality, which is phenomenal. And I would say, much like yourself, you are currently in the works of building your brand. You are a lifestyle and fitness coach. And now I don't know if I'm allowed to say the woman's name that you're working with. If that's
I've been working with Kim Couture. We're training different group classes, and we're in the process of opening up hopefully a gym. Maybe this is her dream, and she's come to me for some input on it. And there's going to be basketball courts. She's involved with a whole other TV show called Brawl Ball. But of course, having those courts, I know I have a feeling I'll be able to get back involved with a community aspect. I don't know if I'll coach again, but I could see myself doing camps or drills, There's so much you can do on a basketball court with fitness and with youth, volleyball, basketball, dodgeball, just anything to get kids off the street or more, more involved into entering gyms and being a part of fitness is super important. One thing.
Go ahead.
I want to touch one thing really quick still on Alex Honnold. I think in that movie, he says, people talk about how crazy he is for climbing that mountain. People have talked about me, how crazy it is to go to Vegas. Maybe you mentioned about you and Chad. Is it crazy that you're starting this business, right? But there's so much that you don't see that led up to it. There's so much life experience or work ethic that people don't see. Like Alex Honnold said, yeah, if you tried climbing this, that would be crazy. But I've been climbing for 20 years every single day for 8 hours. People don't see that. They try to put themselves as if they're the ones climbing the mountain. Yeah, Ryan, me and you shouldn't go to Yosemite and try to climb El Capitan. But maybe if we climb for 20 years every single day, well, maybe now we enter into that discussion. So the people see all the years that you've worked at Schneider and all the other things that you've done beyond the scenes, that now you're going out on this new adventure. People see all the years that I coached and all the years that I've been into fitness, that boom, now I ended up in Vegas. That is actually a big fitness community. There's a lot of pieces that I think people don't always see in individual lives where they kind of prejudge themselves based on their experience. Well, I don't really want to start a podcast, Ryan. That's for you. That's based on your life experience. Maybe you don't want to coach a youth basketball team, but maybe that's for me, right? There's a lot that people don't see. So I just want to touch on that.
No, and that actually, that's a very good point you make there. And it also dives into work ethic, right? So sure. Alex had been climbing for 20 plus years, right? Behind the scenes. And that was only because he just loved to climb. He loved to climb. He was a lesser known character.
Yep.
Nobody knew much about him.
And then suddenly, but then they see him when he's about to do the craziest climb, as if he's the guy walking out. Some random guy is just going to climb this. No.
Yeah. Yes, and he beat the other guy's record as time in climbing it, and he was like, "Who the heck is this guy? Where'd this guy come from?" He thought he was just a random dude who just decided to climb it.
Yeah. So super important. Perspective matters, right?
Absolutely. The iceberg theory.
For sure. Iceberg theory. Good.
Yep. You only see the top of the iceberg, right? So the rest of it's underwater. That's that hard work that of years of experience that you don't see. And I think that's really good. That's a really good advice for all of our listeners and viewers out there. So going into that further, you are currently coaching people in fitness.
Yep. So I launched my YouTube channel. I got my Instagram. It's just my name, Martin Binning, for Instagram, Martin Binning for YouTube. And then my website's going to launch this Friday, martinbinning.com. Of course, I'll do online programs for people. And really, I'm just putting all my information out there. I do want to work with people one-on-one here in Las Vegas. It goes back to, I think, my spirit of volunteering and giving back. To lose 100 pounds, Ryan, and I battled with God on this. I wanted to, at times, just enjoy my quiet life. In Wisconsin, I had the TV commercials. When I was a kid in Florida, I was on a little TV show called David D. It seems like I always end up back in front of a camera talking. And I, struggle with that at times, right? You got to step out into the light, and there's a comfort issue. And here I'm putting myself on camera, and people can see me and hear me. But I realized the difference of my life when you're 300 pounds or 200 pounds, it's simply too different. It's too profound to not share. And it would go against my whole being of being a coach, being a teacher, being a mentor, my whole life in all these categories. And now I'm not going to tell people and share with people when I go to the grocery store, when I go to Walmart, when I go out into society and I see people that are 300, 400, 500 pounds, and I see America and the world's hurting. When I worked in healthcare and I had clients who are diabetic and they're on insulin and people dying of heart disease, these are two of the biggest killers in America, and they're basically 90% preventable based on diet and nutrition. And now I feel like in a lot of ways I've unlocked a code to fitness, right? And so to not share that, I felt like that would be sort of selfish.
That's fascinating. I agree with you. That's something that, in fact, that even reminds me of our last guest, Jason Bahamonde. His whole, he is the founder and owner or co-founder and owner, sorry, of Run Try Bike Mag, and in there it's an endurance sports
Great,
outlet where
great episode. I watched it.
Thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate that. He was phenomenal. Fascinating guy.
Mhm.
There was a lot there with him. And
Yeah.
the biggest thing, one of the great takeaways and understanding about his business is storytelling. It's all about sharing the great stories about people and their accomplishments.
Yeah.
And so, yours right there is a prime example of that, overcoming that, well, huge weight gain, which
Yeah.
that, one of the side effects of that is, well, I'm sure you probably felt down about yourself. I'm sure you felt,
Yeah.
some form of depression. Then you started ruminating,
Yeah.
about it all the time. And at some point you were just like, I don't want to go hang out with people. I don't feel good about myself. And then what does it do? It turns into a vicious cycle. You start
Yep.
eating more. You probably even, start drinking, something
Yeah.
to that
Yeah.
effect,
For sure.
you know?
I think the essence of humanity is movement, in my opinion. Two concepts of movement of our bodies and like movement around the globe. And when you look at a lot of the issues in society, it's about like limiting individuals' ability to move their body, which limits their confidence. And we have people that are really overweight, really unhealthy, that are just working their job and they just stay stuck right in their apartment or their home. We have to somehow break that cycle and get us. And COVID shut so much down and made everybody so much sicker, and a lot of people gained weight, and hurts people's confidence. Now people aren't traveling. They don't want to start the business. They're afraid to try out for the basketball team. There's a lot of fear and doubt. And we got to get back out. We got to get this movement of our bodies moving again to get healthier. And then we got to be willing to, for you, Ryan, you're in Wisconsin, but this movement that you're starting is now spreading across America. So now this is movement again across the globe, and sharing ideas and sharing communication. So there's a huge responsibility, I think, amongst all of us humans, Christians, to step out into the light and be willing to share some of those stories, because life is so much sweeter when you can move, Ryan, right? But think about, I think you've had a little bit of your own fitness journey.
Absolutely.
Life gets pretty lonely. Life gets pretty scary and pretty sad when you're not moving around. Do you agree?
100%.
100%.
100% agree with that. I think one of the byproducts of that, though, is there's like a couple things in there. One of the things that I take away from that, or it's a positive byproduct of that, is forcing people to have conversations with each other.
Yeah.
Coming to terms with themselves, realizing that they've got things in themselves that they need to change, and being able to confront those things and being able to have conversations with each other on that, and like helping others to understand that I have these things about me that I need to change. I need to improve. I need help. Realizing that you need help, and you may need somebody to talk to. You may need somebody to talk to, whether it's about your mental health or it's about your physical health, or if it's about your how can you improve in your fitness and the level of whatever challenges there are that are presented to you, or that you have an interest in engaging with. So I think a lifestyle and fitness coach that's actually a budding industry where people are realizing that, that's something that there's a need for, something to that in that realm, for people to improve in areas that they may not have that courage in themselves to do that. So having somebody that is like a support system to help keep them accountable.
Yeah.
To push that. So are you seeing a lot of that? Are you holding people accountable and helping them to improve?
Absolutely. I think a big issue is human beings, a lot of them have just forgot what they like, and they're confused.
Mm-hmm.
Dopamine is something in our brain, right? And the problem is, right now in society, we all think we like cheap dopamine release, and we don't. We actually don't. So sugar, alcohol, drugs, pornography, TikTok, whatever it is, it's quick, cheap dopamine, and we fall into this trap of thinking that we like that. What we actually like is prolonged dopamine release. We like putting together a routine, working out for 3 months, seeing the result. That feels dang good, right? we like setting goals and accomplishing them. That feels really good. When we eat clean nutrition, man, we can almost control, I don't want to say all, I'm not a doctor or anything like that. I'll say we can control a lot of health issues. We can control anxiety and depression. So we need to somehow together, me, you, Chad, people that are willing to step out and speak on these things, how do we rewire our brain to remind ourselves we don't like cheap dopamine, we like prolonged dopamine, and it feels really good.
So what's one of the best strategies to doing that? What would a fitness and lifestyle coach such as Martin Bidding suggest to our viewers and listeners? How would they go about doing such a thing?
Here's the first thing. I mean, when I started officially like the journey, that wasn't the first time I talked about it, right? That wasn't the first time. And then I didn't fall off and I just went on this thing. I talked about it and I failed, and I talked about it and I failed, and I talked about it and I did nothing. I talked about it again. I read an article and I saw a podcast like this, and I kept going back. Okay. So it's about, don't feel when you fall off, when you work out for 7 days and then you fell off and that fitness journey failed. I think sometimes people get trapped in that failure and they're afraid to keep doing it. No, keep doing it. Keep pushing through the failures. Keep pushing through the bad habits, because eventually you will break free. Maybe you worked out for 3 days, then you fell off for a month. Oh, dang it. I'm no good. I suck. I'm not going to do it again. No, go back and do it for 7 days. Oh, no, I fell off again. I'm no good. Now I'm eating Cheetos and drinking Gatorade again. Oh, no, go back and maybe you'll get it for a month. And then you'll go back and maybe get it for 3 months. And then there's going to be a breakthrough. There will be a breakthrough for sure. I believe that 100%. Perseverance.
So, yes, I was just going to say perseverance, persistence.
Persistency.
Or staying persistent is going to be key to breaking the cycle. To break the cycle, and go from to quote the article about you, which we'll touch on that in just a moment here. The metamorphosis from short-term dopamine hits to long-term dopamine hits.
It's a whole process, and no one needs to feel like ashamed or disappointed about failure. Like, for every successful man or woman, athlete, like, don't they stand on a whole pile of failures? Like, that's a quote, isn't it? I can't quote that, but I mean, nobody just walks into the room and they won the biggest trophy. Like, no, that's not how it works, right? Like, all the great athletes, they all talk about they were cut, like they didn't make the team, they had a horrible knee injury, they had to come back. Like, that's the story of life. It's the story of being a coach, a business owner. It's the story of starting your fitness journey and trying to lose 50 pounds, 100 pounds. Like, you have to be willing to say, this thing, it's not always going to be beautiful. There's going to be ups and downs. It's going to be ugly, but I'm not going to give up.
I think there was a basketball player, and hopefully somebody can comment and put it in the comments section. There was a player that said, don't talk about my successes. I think it was, don't talk about my failures, talk about my successes. I might have that wrong. It might be the other way around.
It's backwards.
It is backwards.
You're close. We'll get it right.
Yeah, we'll get it right. So hopefully somebody can comment on that and who said it and what's the right way to say it.
Yeah.
So I can understand the meaning better. So talk to me about this. An article was written about you.
Yep.
And we'll put that out there for everyone else to see.
Cool.
How did that come about?
So having lost.
And you don't have to talk about anything you don't want to bring up, because I understand that there were some dark patches, but
Sure.
Whatever you feel comfortable with.
Yeah. So I believe part of fellowship, right? Part of reaching each other is being willing to share the difficulties that we go through. A lot of us, the things that we're afraid to talk about and share, we all go through. We all have you're the same human I am. We're all human beings. We're the same creatures. We all have the same desires, the same temptations, the same things are pulling us. And I think the more we shine light on it, and the more together as a group, as a society, like, we can overcome some of these things that are hurting us. If it's drugs, if it's alcohol, if it's, pretty girls on Instagram, whatever it is that we're dwelling in, like, it's not just one person that's struggling with this. It's a lot of us. And it takes a few of us to stand up and say, hey, that's not good. Here's the difference between your life when you have a milkshake every day and instead you eat healthier every day, right? So the article was written by Cliff Griefy from MidwestCulture.com, and he's in Wisconsin, just like you are. It was neat that I still have a connection to Wisconsin and the Midwest. And I was honored that he wanted to write it about me. It gave me this opportunity to share my story and have, something on print. You can only self-promote so much. To have people like you, to have people like Cliff to kind of reach out and say, hey man, you do have a story, let me write it for you. I think it lends a little bit more credibility to it, and then it allows it to hit more eyes also. So that article went out and it's gotten a ton of feedback, and I was terrified, Ryan, for a little bit to talk about everything in it, little aspects of my family, aspects of my past, gaining weight, reasons why I gained weight, insecurities as a man, things like that. Like, it's not all pretty, but I felt that God wanted me to be brave and to step up and share my story. So then I do it with Cliff, right, in private. We have the phone interview, and then I'm for 3 days waiting for him to write it, going, holy smokes, what did I put out there? Then it gets released, and for 2-3 days, I'm, oh my goodness. The article went out on my social media, other social medias, and then I sent it out to some people. I got a phone call about maybe a week afterwards, and it was a gentleman I'd worked with at one of my first jobs here in Vegas. I had sent the article, I guess, to him. And he told me, Martin, the Super Bowl happened this year in Vegas, and he was out partying at a Super Bowl party. He drove home, he got a DUI. He's had some struggles in his life, and then you throw a DUI on top. He was at a really low moment. He told me that he was contemplating suicide at the time. And then, ding, you got a text from Martin, this article. And me and him had a connection. I really respected him as a man. He was a really interesting guy, and I wanted to share the article with him. And he said he sat and read it, and that it hit him in the face and said, holy smokes, things of the past don't matter. Mistakes don't matter. Like, you're still alive. Here you are. Go to God. Be willing to overcome the hole that you built. There's a lot of self-responsibility. You can't just make all these mistakes and then just check out. Like, no, like, if you want, like, be a man, step up to the plate, figure out what are the issues with the anxiety, with the depression, with past trauma, whatever it is. We all have, we share in a lot of these issues. So holy smokes, Ryan, I went from terrified, didn't want to do the article, terrified, I did the article, terrified, the article's out. And then God, I believe, said, this is why I did it. If that article saves one man's life, holy smokes, that's a responsibility I have, that you have, that we all have, to talk about the weaknesses that we have as men, to talk about the temptations that we deal with, to talk about the issues that we have in our families. I think we really owe it to ourselves to do that.
That's deeply profound, Martin. So, because we're getting close to time.
Sure.
What advice would you give others looking to make a significant life change or pursue new career paths based on your own experiences and your binning journey?
Yeah. What advice? Well, I think, okay. And on my YouTube, I do a video on this. Try to fall in love with the area that you live. So now look at me. Like, I've been a little bit around the map a little bit. Wisconsin, Florida, Vegas. One thing I've tried to do on this whole journey is to fall in love with the area that I'm at. And I'll look up all the state parks. Just, it could be like a biking paths, different things. Try to really learn about different museums, art museums. Try to find fun ways to just get yourself out and about and adding to your steps. I think that's super important for people that want to start a fitness journey, especially people that have maybe fallen off a lot and walking into a gym maybe terrifies them. Don't worry about getting a gym membership yet. Just worry about falling in love with some art museums, some history museums, finding a new bike path, finding, just anything really. Go to your state capitol, walk around for an hour, just little simple things. Because that's truly a workout. It doesn't have to be this crazy calisthenics. I'm doing 20. I can't even do a muscle up. Okay. So, it doesn't have to be. I think sometimes we go to the whole other idea. Fall in love with the area that you live in. And I think that'll, be really interesting for you. And for me, at least, I have so much love and respect for Wisconsin, for Florida, for Nevada now as a whole. But I get to see a lot of other things I think people don't get to see. They might just stay trapped in their home. I just look up interesting festivals. You got something to walk around now, go find an art museum, go walk around. What's the state capitol? Go walk around, So that's
so one of your goals is to be the anti-sedentary, because right now a lot of people live a very sedentary lifestyle.
for sure.
You sit in a chair for 8 to 10 hours a day. There's, you're not moving around as much. And when you're not moving around as much, you're more tired, you're more lethargic, you're more prone to snacking, consistently eating in between meals over and over and over, making poor diet choices.
I know one thing too, Ryan, you said talk about, I think you mentioned the last thing, if you're going on a new career, fitness journey, whatever it is.
Yeah.
I feel like it's hard for us as human beings to really know what the next thing is if we aren't in the full right body and right mind. I think there's a lot of people then that are stuck in that job and they're afraid of that new career. Yeah, if you're 300 pounds, I don't think you're going to have the confidence or the bravery to start that dream career or that idea that you always knew you wanted to do. And you might need to work 80 hours, 70 hours a week. But yeah, if you've got diabetes, that's going to be hard. So this is part of why I'm so passionate then about the fitness aspect, because I think, I got that fitness aspect going in Wisconsin, and that's taken me on this journey now of starting this whole fitness business, fitness channel. But none of that was possible without starting that journey. So if you want to open up the new business, if you want to travel Europe, but there's those insecurities and things that are holding you back, man, your confidence is going to go through the roof with physical fitness. Your health is going to improve. Your sleep's going to improve. Your energy levels are going to go through the roof with better nutrition, with limiting alcohol. So a lot of people get so foggy and bogged down in their minds. They're not really living the life that I think they dreamed or that they really could without they really address those initial issues of fitness. That's why I'm so passionate about it, because it trickles into every aspect of life.
Okay, so to summarize that, if they are paying more mind to their fitness, paying more mind to their nutrition,
Yep.
the downstream effect to that is actually they'll become the best version of themselves
100%.
to gain more confidence, more acumen, more aptitude, to be able to go out adventure and start that business, or take on that new job, or
100%.
coaching AAU. There's a lot of positive downstream effects to that.
And Ryan, I think you've had your own transformation. I mean, think about the lowest point in your life and your confidence. Would you be doing a podcast like this? Would you be in the position that you are at your job?
Yeah, that's quite the question. I'd say that I'd say with the amount of time that you think of it, Dr. Eric Thomas. I don't know if you've heard of him. He's a motivational speaker, phenomenal.
Yep.
And he says, God gave you 24 hours in the day. What are you doing with it?
Yeah.
All right. And every time I'm doing things, I think about that, I think, okay, is what I'm doing value added?
Yep.
Am I learning something? Am I learning a skill? Am I learning information that could be beneficial? What am I doing how am I spending my time? Am I just sitting around playing games? I don't play video games anymore. I used to long time ago, but I cut that right out of my life because there's no time for that, because there's more important things to take care of, because every man should be trying to build themselves up, gain 100%. Skills, gain knowledge, right? You should be working towards a goal, not a short-term dopamine hit, but a long-term dopamine hit. That's a long-term strategy, long-term goal to have the life you really want to have, and to have that be the best version of yourself. So I think you hit the nail on the head there, man, with that.
Better fitness, better nutrition, more energy to accomplish the goals that you want to accomplish.
Absolutely. I think that's an excellent spot right there to cut it. And if people want to find you, where do they find Martin Binning? What are your socials?
Martin Binning that's just it. MARTIN, Binning like winning, BINNING, Binning like winning, but with a B.
Nice. Like we say in the Marine Corps, keep it simple, stupid. So we can find you. You've launched a YouTube channel,
and I have my Instagram. The YouTube channel, the first 20 or so videos have been me talking about my life. It's kind of an expansion of that article. as well as just different mindset tips on nutrition. And then now I've officially started to do more actual workouts. I've done a couple with some of the top bodybuilders here in Vegas. I've got more on the way, so I think people will like that. I'm going to be adding a lot more influencers and well-known people, so I expect the channel to really pick up. It's a little raw right now, but I've got some new mics, some new cameras coming in, and this gym that I'm working at is just a beautiful gym that I'm allowed to film content at, so I'm super excited about the location. So yeah, tune in, and it's going to really ramp up over the next few months.
Fantastic. One last thing, though. Is it true that you may be starring in a movie? I won't say too much, but I'm just gonna say
filming
that.
starts in 2 weeks. In 2 weeks, I can then make the official announcement. I signed an NDA.
Okay.
I should have a couple of lines. It's not, I won't have a major role, but it is a major film with a big budget, with a big time actor. So I'm excited to be a part of it, and we'll see where it goes from there.
Well, us here at Team 2, we're excited to see you, move on and go on your journey. I mean, this is exciting, man. That's pretty cool.
Thanks, Ryan. Appreciate
and we
you.
really appreciate you being on the show, buddy.
Shout out.
Hey, what's up with that shirt? Tell me about that shirt real quick.
Just the Game champions. This is the Wisconsin Basketball Hall of Fame is in the Wisconsin Dells, Just the Game Fieldhouse. We went there. This is where we won a few of our tournaments. And so just in honor of one of the teams, I wanted to wear this, and shout out to Wisconsin. I'll always love you guys. I'll be back to visit someday.
All right, everybody. That's Martin Binning. Thanks for being on the show, buddy.
Thanks, Ryan. Thanks, Chad.
Thanks for tuning in to After the Game. Brought to you by Team 2, your all-in-one sports website platform. Team 2, we're not just a platform, we're a part of your team too. Until next time, stay in the game.